Hey everybody, this is Perch. This is very much a comic collector buyer kind of deep inside baseball kind of video. So it's not going to have the usual fluffy, blurry. Anyway, it's it won't appeal to as many of you, I guess is the point. But those it should land with, hopefully it does land with. Anyway, here's an email. It says, "Hi there. I go back and forth between buying and reading comics. One day I'm so excited, the next day comics suck. It's very on and off with me. Just for a little backstory, I've been away for comics for quite some time. Reading or buying, it's been a year and a half now. About a week ago, I bought $200 worth of comics ranging from new releases to back issues to the bargain bins. Out of 3 long boxes, $200 got me only 95 comics. Wait a minute. You got a good deal. Out of 3 long boxes, $200 got me only 95 comics. Literally, in my opinion, were good. At times like this, I feel ripped off, stupid, and angry. I know people buy comics for various reasons, character storylines, entertainment, etc. Why do I feel this way, and am I the only one, Dr. Perch? You mentioned you ran a comic shop in the past. As a seller and as a customer, gives us a rundown of the psychology of buying comics and the results thereof. Okay, so let's see how much this lands is true to you. But there's some observations about comics I don't hear talked about very often. And for what it's worth, I don't know. I've had very rare conversations with people who work inside the companies. And in this instance, understanding your customer, I think, is one of the key components of, running a business, being in a business. And it's one of those areas where I fear or think that, people in editorial, people in staff, people in sales do not understand this aspect of human behavior, human psychology. First off, I'm sure several of you listening recognize at least one thing in that email that probably has happened to you. We run very hot and cold on comic buying. We sometimes we're very excited. Sometimes we're buying lots of comics. We're in fact we're overbuying comics. And then at other times, it's feast or famine, I think, is the way it's often described. You're buying comics, you're happy, you're frustrated, you're not. And if you go into anyone's if you're a collector, you'll notice that one of the very common things in a lot of people is that they have gaps in their run. And that's increased quite a bit since the publishers have launched and started, stopped, relaunched. Put tie-ins, put crossovers. You're like, I have a complete X-Men collection. It's like, but do you have this relaunch over here that Karen Gillan did? And did you have this Empire tie-in? Did you have, blah, 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 blah. And the collector is like, damn it, I didn't even really know those existed. Because it's very common that people get gaps in their collection from moments when they, they're on a downswing and they're frustrated with comics. And so they don't buy. And they wind up missing a bunch of things, and then they have to go back and get it later, and in back issue hunting and everything if they're a completist. But it's very, very common that people have these gaps in their collections where they buy and then they overbuy and they buy. The other thing, I guess, the other side of this is if at times when comics are hot and you're excited and you're into it, you buy things you don't need. If you ever go back and look at your collection, they're like, why the hell did I buy this New Warriors limited series? Like, I don't even like New Warriors. What is going on here? Like you'll find things like that, and that's a lot of what comic psychology buying is. It tends to be very up and down. It's very rarely steady. And for what it's worth, for a long time, the fact that you had long runs and you had, comics weren't relaunching and everything else was actually to the benefit of the publishers and the retailers, because it helped people weather the storm when they were up and down. They didn't necessarily buy new things, but they kept buying kind of the same run because they're wired in their heads like, I'm not happy, but at least I know I need to, keep collecting Superman or Green Lantern over here, and I may go months not reading it, but at least I'm getting it because I know I could just subscribe to Green Lantern and then it's good. But the second they started doing, limited series disguised as ongoings and, constant relaunches and changes and other things, it blew that all up and it broke that chain. And it still amazes me how few people who work within comics understand that factor. Um, it's dangerous. Um, and I'm still stuck. So you got 90. I couldn't quite tell what you were saying there. I think you spent $200 and you got 95 comics you like, or you're talking about all of your collection, or as you went through all the long boxes, this is everything you found. I don't know, but it kind of feels like you got a lot of comic books for that dollar. So my brain keeps looping back on that as I talk. It's like, hey, you got a good deal actually, or you got a lot of books that money. Maybe you're buying all terrible books. That's quite possible. Anyway, um, look, comic collecting, comic buying, it is heavily weighted on psychology. And I bring psychology up a lot on this channel because I guess it's my way of saying customer understanding or customer experience or customer thoughtfulness or customer centricity, if you want to be fancy with the word. It's really critical that you understand the buying behaviors and the thought processes and how the collector, the buyer thinks. And if you can do that, whether you're an artist, a writer, and definitely if you work, the problem is if you work within the company, and particularly if you work in sales, it's an absolute must. And you've seen a bunch of interviews over the years, and there's more recent ones. Dan Buckley saying, we really got to get people to go back into the comic shop on Wednesday, and that's a priority. And any retailer who's been at it for any length of time who actually understands their business will say, yeah, I see what you're going there. I see what you're going for. What you're basically saying is we need to get people back in the habit of buying comics. And many people build habits around a day. Like if you could establish on Wednesdays, I go to the comic shop. On Tuesdays, I go to the gym. On Thursdays, I go to, if you could, a lot of people are wired that way. They need that kind of structure in order to build habits. But the problem is that is not the place to start. It's kind of a nonsense comment. And it is indicated. I am not a fan of Dan Buckley. I haven't been. I've not enjoyed the meetings I've had with him, and I don't enjoy the human, because a lot of it feels like the atmosphere of Marvel. Marvel has an arrogance that the other publishers, certainly have, but less of. Marvel has a very deep-rooted, almost cultural embedding of arrogance, and it's frustrating. I think, and I believe a lot of it comes from the top. Now, I mean, this existed long before Buckley, but there's a certain level of, and this is always the trap when you're understanding consumer behavior. We know best. We know how this business operates. We know what is necessary. We're the number one comic company. You are, you're the consumer. Consume. And that is the impression that Marvel gives a lot of people. It is, when I've confronted people out there saying, hey, look, of all the publishers I work with, of all the publishers I talk to, the one that is the most arrogant, and it definitely shows up that way, is Marvel. And a lot of it is based on a lack of understanding of their customers, a lack of understanding of what gets them into a shop, of what gets them collecting a comic, of what gets them feeling good about their purchase, of how to weather this storm and what is natural and what is not natural. We're talking about the idea of, you run hot and cold on comics. That is natural. That's not necessarily something you can halt or prevent, because if you look at your life, that is how human beings are. Sometimes you are more into baseball. Sometimes you are less. That just, we tend to, our minds go into different states of wanting to explore what we've got and wanting to explore elsewhere. And that is, it's very much human nature. It's wired into us. And so you can't stop that as a comic publisher, as a person creating comics, as a retailer. But what you can do is help people weather the storm, like, keeping the renumbering solid, being cautious of gimmicks that feel predatory. There's a Wolverine series that they're launching, Saladin and Ahmed and Marco Cinchetto, I think. I believe that's a creative team that we've heard. But part of the gimmick they're going to do for this comic, and something Marvel is going to start doing on the regular, is saying like, hey, collectors, take note. We want to draw your attention to this comic, this issue, because it's going to introduce a major part of the character's backstory and lore. So you're going to need to come in and collect this one. That doesn't work. That may work on some retailers, and granted, if you are a publisher, that is your customer, not the, it's a B2B2C business. So I can get that. Some retailers will jump and go, well, I guess I better buy more because they're going to introduce a major new character here. But generally, the retailers have been so burned by this, and the true customers, the people coming in and buying comic books at the shop, they've absolutely been burned by this. This gimmick does not work well anymore. And so these approaches don't help fit the psychology of the customer. What works really well is to create value in the mind of the customer. And whether you're a collector or whether you're just reading for enjoyment, value is an incredibly good motivator in this space. What do I mean by value? I'll use the approach differently. You're relaunching Wolverine #1. You've got a brand new creative team on it. Here's what you should say as a publisher. We've got a brand new Wolverine series coming out of this. We will have the legacy numbering, so it'll be nice and easy for your collection. Hey, retailers, if you have long-term Wolverine fans, people who have been collecting Wolverine for some time, this comic book is very much going to be a Wolverine comic book. It's not going to be Wolverine, but really there's the supporting character they're going to put more of the attention onto. It is a Wolverine comic. If you dig all the way back to the Mishima Claremont stuff, all the way back to the first time you got an ongoing, this comic book will feel like it belongs in that set, and that you should communicate that to your customers. And on top of that, this comic book, we are committing for a really solid run. We're putting some really good thought into the creative team. It's not going to be 5 issues and gone. This is something worth selling, worth putting your time into in order to get customers on board. So we recommend you do that. And also, we're going to be going places that are fan favorite places. We're going to be doing an arc in Madripoor. We're going to be doing something that ties into some Wolverine's adventures in Japan. We are going to be showcasing some of his classic rogues gallery. We promise that doesn't just mean we're doing something with Sabretooth and maybe Lady Deathstrike. We're actually going to go into some of the other people he's faced over the years. And this is going to be something where if you're a long-term reader of the X-Men or Wolverine, you're going to find it comforting, familiar, and rewarding, because we're going to pay off some old storylines that have been dangling around for a while. We're actually going to delve into that stuff. Why that argument works so well is it says, hey, this is going to be an exciting book. It's going to be a good superhero book. Come on. It's not isolating any new readers. But it also says, hey, there's value here. If you've been reading comics in the past, this comic will pay off some of those things. And so if you're a comic customer who's up and down mentally about how you feel about comics, this says, hey, stuff in the past that you read and enjoyed, or maybe stuff that, you didn't pay a lot of attention to because you're kind of out, we're going to make sure we tap into that. We're going to give you some value from that. Those kind of arguments work really, really well. But it's a humble argument. It's one that says, look, you, the customer at the center, you're the one who matters here, and we're going to write a story for you. We're going to do something that pays off your investment and your energy and your appreciation and your commitment to our title. We're going to give you something for that. That's a really compelling, good message. The directive of, hey, there's going to be a major new character to Wolverine. You're going to want to stop. You're going to want to get on board with this one. Yeah, okay. Sure. Like 2 years ago, that was Salim, the Araku guy who was going to be a major adversary for Wolverine that never became anything. Anybody remember Romulus? That was supposed to be a major thing with Wolverine. Like, you can't. It's fooled me 5 times. You don't get a 6, and I'm being generous about 5. You have to treat your customers like they are adults or kids, whatever, but at least they're thinking people. And you do have to basically show them that there's value and not tell them. It is the show me state. That's what comics are. And just putting the Marvel logo on the cover is not enough. Putting the DC logo and saying, there's DC has a different thing that they do, which is, hey, we had a big retreat, and all of us DC guys were talking about comics, and you're not ready. We've got the most amazing, exciting stuff you've ever seen. Yeah, okay. Cool. I mean, I'm glad you're excited. But we know something you don't know, and it's going to be exciting. You're not going to believe it. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to a comic customer dropping $200 a week. It really doesn't. The only people who are going to be suckered into that are people who are looking for clout on Twitter. That doesn't get you anywhere. Because once again, we've heard lots of big promises about amazing retreats and parties, and good for you for having a party. I don't want you to not have a party, but bragging about it, assuming that's going to, get, love and interest from your customer base, it's not. I can promise you. Anyway, thanks for bearing with me. Are you a comic customer? Do you feel you go up and down? Do you have gaps in your run because of this? And what creates value for you? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.